Hi, I'm Mikaela, and this is Love Mikaela, a podcast where I talk about literally anything and everything I want to. As long as my calendar and my calculations, I guess, are correct. Today, the day that this is going up, it should be Christmas Eve, which one is the day before Christmas if you celebrate, and two is my mom's birthday. So happy birthday, mommy. I love you. If you're listening, she's probably not, but that's okay. So, since it's so close to Christmas, being Christmas Eve, I thought I would talk about a little Christmas movie. I actually had one of my very good friends recommend this to me because I think they know someone who was in production with, like, on the production team or, like, acting in it. I don't know. Um, but it is perfect for me because it is a Hallmark Christmas movie, which, I feel like you kind of either love them or you hate them, or you love them because they're cheesy and cringy and it's like a love hate. I don't know. I feel like people are very polarized on where they stand with it. So I thought I would talk about that. So the movie that they recommended to me is called A Biltmore Christmas. It's one of the newer Hallmark movies that came out. I think it came out this year, either this year or like last year. It came out really recently. I think it was this year. I had a hard time trying to find it because some of the older ones you can find on like Amazon Prime and stuff like that, but this one I literally had to like go to cable and like record it and watch it. So, to be honest, if you haven't caught it yet, I think it's playing one more time after this comes out. But if you haven't already caught it, it might be hard to catch it. But, whatever. As per usual, I will give a little synopsis and then I'll talk about what I liked or didn't like without spoilers, and then the stuff with the spoilers, and then my what did I learn. Just my normal format that I follow when I'm like talking about shows or movies that I've watched. This one will be a little bit different because I don't think I've done a movie yet. I think this is the first movie I'm doing, and it's also not a K drama, so a little different, but So, A Biltmore Christmas is this is a synopsis that I just pulled from the internet, and then I'll add things in if I think so. Like, I think they need to be added in. A magical hourglass sends modern day screenwriter Lucy Hardgrove to the set of the 1947 holiday movie classic, His Merry Wife. However, before she can return to the present, Lucy must make things right or threaten to alter the future forever. Which is true. What would I add to this? Um, I mean, that's kind of it. And it's also just your classic Hallmark movie kind of plot that's happening. Um, they make it sound like she can't return to the present without making sure that everything is fine in the past, which I guess is sort of true. Like time travel, which I love a good time travel. We just talked about that in Twinkling Watermelon, and I talked about it forever. Like that was one of my probably, I mean, fingers crossed, that's the longest Love Michaela podcast I put out during this new season. Because that was a lot to go through. We love time travel. I love time travel. I love a little romance and a little Christmas magic. I'm the kind of person, I feel like I've talked about this before. I'm the kind of person who loves some romance, loves a little comedy, a little rom-com action. That's my favorite. I don't care if it's cheesy. I love a happy ending. And I also have said, which I don't know if I still fully agree with this. I kind of agree with it. I think I would be really fulfilled as a human if all I ever filmed, if I was just the lead of Hallmark Christmas movies like forever and ever. I mean, I'm sure at some point I would get bored, but as of right now, I think I would still. It's just so fun. Who cares if it's cheesy or if the writing isn't like Oscar worthy? Which, to be honest, this one was really, really well written. Like this one was really good. Honestly, the whole thing was really good. I feel like out of all the like I like Hallmark Christmas movies because they're so cheesy, and like I just like the feel. Like I like the predictability. I like all the funny names. I like that it's always a grumpy person and someone who loves like I love all of that. I love that. I don't care that it's predictable or if the writing is really cheesy or not the best. I don't care about that. But this one is probably one of the best ones I've seen. I mean, granted, it's newer, so that probably has something to do with it. But it was like actually really, really good. I really liked it. Did the ending feel a little bit rushed? Yeah. But I mean, they only have X amount of time to get through. It's not like a feature length film. It's a Hallmark Christmas movie, so they don't have a lot of time to get through a lot of stuff. And while the ending did feel a little rushed, it wasn't unsatisfying, so I actually didn't really mind it. Anyway, sorry, back to the synopsis. I would say that they're making it sound like she like physically is unable to return to the future if she doesn't make sure that things in the past go right, which I don't think is true. Like in the very everything, so my non-spoiler section is going to be way longer than normal. One, cuz it's a movie, and two, like a lot of stuff just happened in the beginning. So I only included stuff that was in the first 15 to 20 minutes of the film. So hope if you think that's a spoiler, then I guess don't listen to any of this. But I don't really feel like it's a spoiler. That's just kind of like the intro to everything that's going on. They introduce there's like an hourglass, and that's kind of how she time travels, and she's able to like get to it and turn it when she wants to. Like, she can control when she wants to go back and forth, basically. So it's not really like she's stuck there. The synopsis kind of makes it sound like she is. She's not, but I mean, does she want to change the future? No, it's not going to benefit her or anyone in any way. It's just going to make things weird and maybe make things worse. So yeah, there is some urgency to that like she shouldn't return to the present until she makes sure that everything in the past is okay. But it's not like she can't physically. And then I would also say a big I guess that is a pretty accurate description. She does return to the set, and then yeah, I guess I don't know how I would make it any better. That's the synopsis. Let me read it again, just so we're not fully confused. A magical hourglass sends modern-day screenwriter Lucy Hardgrove to the set of the 1947 holiday movie classic, His Merry Wife. However, before she can return to the present, Lucy must make things right or threaten to alter the future forever, which is true. And she also is... I mean, they don't need to include this in the synopsis, but I'm going to just say it because it happens in the first literal 5 minutes of the film. She's a screenwriter, and she's also writing the like remake of the classic holiday film. I think that's kind of an important thing to know. And so then she gets sent back to the set of the original film that she's writing the remake of, which is like kind of fun. So I'm just going to get right into this. This is probably also going to be kind of a shorter one. I only have 1 page of notes here. It's a fast movie. It's a Hallmark Christmas movie, you know? I just want to do something a little kind of fun for the season. The set was really, really pretty. That was one of the first things I noticed. It's like the Biltmore, I don't know, I would call it an estate, I guess. I don't even know what the difference between like mansions and estate. I don't know the difference of all that. That's a different tax bracket from me. But I would call it an estate, so that's what I'm going to call it. The set of it, the Biltmore estate, was like really, really pretty. It was really beautiful. It was decked out. It was around Christmas time because, of course, the film takes place around Christmas time because there's some Christmas magic. It just gives you the perfect like Christmassy vibe. And it was just really well decorated, well done. It felt big. I don't know like if they filmed on at an actual place or if it was like facades and stuff put up, but it felt big in all like one space. So if it was facades, like well done, because it looked really good. It's just like one of the perfect, like some of them are set in a little small town, most of them are set in a little small town. Some of them are set, like I've seen, like there's a Christmas Prince one, so that's set in like a castle, like it's either like really grand or like really cozy small town. I feel like those are kind of the two things that they kind of bounce back and forth between in terms of setting. And so this one just felt right. It felt good. I loved it. And I honestly haven't watched a Hallmark Christmas movie in like a while. I mean, I tend to only watch them around Christmas time anyway, but I don't really feel like I watched any last year. I think we watched one, but I didn't even watch it. It was one that I'd already seen, and we just put it on in the background while we were decorating the tree. So I wasn't really paying attention. It was just like one of the ones that I like is a comfort one for me. But anyway, so that was really nice. I also really loved, again, none of these are spoilers. I'll say when it's spoilers. We got to see the estate because it already says in the synopsis that she's time traveling, so we got to see it in the present day and also in the past, and that was really fun to see, like just very slight differences that made it feel a little bit different, and they colored it a little bit differently. I don't know if it was just lighting or just in like post editing or a combination of the two. I have no idea, but like they just lit things, or the coloring of things was just a little bit different, so that added to the feel of it. But it was fun. It was like cool to be like, oh, that's a little bit different. Oh, that's a little bit different, stuff like that. I also really loved the intro. The intro of the whole film is the old film playing, and we see part of it play out, and we get to meet some of the main characters of the film that she's traveling to the set of in the past. And I just thought that was a fun way to do it and like set the tone for how things were going. And then the way that they did it was really cool because it's like when they came out of it, she was like clicking out of a TV, or I don't think she wasn't clicking out, but it came out of like a TV, and then it like pans and you see like her it comes out and she like it widens, like your frame of view widens, and you see that she's watching the old film on the TV, which was really fun. I thought that was nice. Yeah, it was just like a cool way to do it. I like when films include things. I can't remember what the word for it is, but it's like diagenic. Is that the word? Something like that. where it's like when you're watching a film and you hear music and it's like clearly like that's like part of this, not this, I guess the score, it's part of the soundtrack for the film, but then like it gets cut off and like it's because like the character inside the film like turns off the radio or something. I love when it's like that. Diegetic, maybe? Diegetic and non-diegetic. I don't know, something like that. I learned about it. I just can't remember it. It's in here somewhere. But I like when they do that with sound, but it's cool also when they do it with like stuff like that where it's like someone was watching something and then you were watching it, but then you're like, "Oh, the character was actually watching it and that's why I saw it." Like I just think stuff like that is fun. Um Something that I think a lot of these Christmas Hallmark movies do really, really well is giving the viewer a solid idea of who each character is when we're introduced to them in the beginning. So like, and I don't think it's unique to this particular movie. I just think this genre of movie does it really well because they kind of have to. They only have a really short amount of time for a lot of stuff to happen, which if you've never written a film or tried to write a film or you're not familiar with screenwriting like in any way, it's really hard to kind of nail getting all the information across that you need to while still keeping it interesting and moving forward while not missing out on like little characterizations that are going to make your audience fall in love with your characters. Like it's hard to combine all these things together in a short period of time. Like me personally, as you can probably tell from these podcasts, I'm a very wordy person. So like I've started and stopped writing several things like films and TV shows, and I like writing. I'm just not the best at it, and especially when it comes to screenplays. Like one of the reasons I stopped writing, one of the ones that I was really proud of and I'll probably pick up again at some point, was because like in terms of like storytelling and where the story was, like I was on a certain page number and I'm like let's just say I was on page 80. I should have been on page 40 with where the story was, like in terms of like the overarching story of like where it was, what point it was in the story. I'm just so wordy, and so these people have to, like the writers for this kind of stuff have to work really hard to make sure that they're getting everything that they want to get across, not missing out on any of those nuances, and making sure that the audience knows the character, because if you don't know a character then it's really hard to care about them. um while fitting into that time frame but still creating something like that's interesting to watch. It's like it's a tough job, and so I commend the writer for doing a really good job on that. But I think that the writers for these kinds of movies are really good at characterizing your characters in the beginning in different ways, and not just through the writing but through like costuming, through like the actors can make choices that can add to this as well. But the writing definitely has a big part in making sure that we know who the character is, so we care about them a little bit more in the beginning, and this movie like did it really, really well. So one of my examples is our very first character, which is our leading lady. Her name is Lucy, and when we first meet Lucy, which this could have been written in the script or it could have been a character choice, I don't know, like by the actor. But she's watching the film like that she's going to be doing the remake of, and she's like biting her nails, and so that gives you a clue that like, oh, like maybe she's a little bit anxious, she's a little like she wants to be on time for things, like she's got like she feels like she has something to do it all the time. Like that gives you a little bit of her character. And she's also wearing, wardrobe is a big part of this as well. She's wearing a very sleek black outfit that's very modern but very like strong but still feminine. And that gives you a very sort like particular vibe about who this person is, who this character is, and like as we're starting to get to know her, like we already kind of have an idea of who she is just based on these first few things that we've seen of her, which is important when you're trying to like get people to be attached to someone very quickly. And then contrasting that with when we meet first Mr. Balaban, who is the current owner of the production studio that's doing the remake of the film, because his production studio is the one who made the original film, and it's the studio that she's working for. And when we first meet him, he's this old man. He's kind of hunched over. He's got glasses. He's got a little, I think, like button-up shirt on. And when we first meet him, he is like talking to her, and he's like chill. Like he's kind of telling her like oh, I want it like this, I want it like this, like still very like he's a boss, but in a way that's very like, it's not like a commanding, very strong. It's just a like, hey, listen, I'm in charge, this is kind of what I want, and you know, I know that you can do it, but let's get on it. And he offers her peppermints, which is then, this isn't a spoiler, but you'll, if you watch the film, then you'll see it's actually like a fun little not Easter egg, but a fun little like they call back to it later in the film. But he has like this thing of peppermints on his desk and he offers her one and he when she's calling him Mr. Balaban, he's like, "Oh no, please call me Michael." Like those all give you clues as to who his character is, and we get those clues like right away, like right when we're first meeting him, and that happens for most of, if not all of the characters that we're meeting throughout the film, which is important and also like really well done. Like it helps tell the story and it helps the audience get kind of hooked in a little bit faster. So I really enjoyed that. Um, the acting isn't Oscar worthy. Or maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe my opinion doesn't really matter on this. But it doesn't, like, it was still good. Like, it was good. And also, like, it doesn't need to be Oscar worthy for something like this. Like, people are watching these because they want to have a fun little time and suspend their disbelief and, like, just get sucked into this little world for a little bit. I'm not looking, at least me, when I'm watching these, I'm not looking for Oscar worthy acting. I'm just like, is it believable enough that I'm not getting sucked out of what's going on? Cool. That's all I need from it. But I will say that this is some of the better acting that I've seen in any of these Hallmark movies. Not that they're bad, like, but it's just like, don't expect something crazy incredible when it's this. And also I feel like they don't have as much time when they're filming these, and I feel like they don't really have a big budget, and so that all affects things as well. But it's cheesy, but not so cheesy that it takes you out of it, and that's exactly what I want when I'm watching a Hallmark movie. So like it was really well done in my opinion. And like I said, this is probably some of the better acting that I've ever seen in any of these films. And so it was good, but especially I really loved our two leads, the girl and the guy, and then I also really loved Margaret. Yes, I loved Margaret. She was like one of the side friend characters. I loved them. And then also the tour guide hotel manager man. I wrote his name down. Winston? Wilson? Winston. I liked him. The four of them were all like really good actors. And I was like, yep, that's why you guys are in these more heavier roles and these roles that have more lines to them, because you guys are good actors. Like it is what it is. But yeah, I still really enjoyed it. It was nice. There was some fun foreshadowing that happened in the beginning. The tour guide, who I felt was just suspicious from the beginning, the tour guide manager man, Winston, he, from the beginning when he's leading the tour, is like, oh, it's great that you're here taking our evening tour. People say that when they come here, it feels like they're transported back in time. And I was like, ha, that's so funny. But it's fun, little things like that. The intro to the hourglass being the thing that's like the time travel was fun, and it was done in a way that was like funny. Like they really explored the comedy the first time, like in that moment where she first time travels. That was really fun to watch. I genuinely was just having fun when I was watching this whole film, but that was a very specific fun moment. And I was like, oh, that's cool, the way that they introduced it, because like she has a moment with the leading man and it's like that she just disappears and he's like, oh, okay, that's weird. It was cute, it was funny, I really enjoyed that. I also loved, like, maybe you know this if you know enough about movies, or maybe you just don't. I honestly don't know at this point because I know so much about filming and things like that, so I catch these things and sometimes I forget if if people who aren't in the industry know about this stuff or not. But it was fun to see all the little tidbits that were calling back to filming in movies. Like they had the call sheet, and that was one of her clues that she was able to use to be like confirming whether she had time traveled or not, or if she was just crazy. There was, what else? I wrote it down. Oh yeah, mentioning Crafty when she goes back in time. She's like, "Can I get any service around here?" And the guy's like, "Oh well, Crafty makes a mean cup of coffee." Like stuff like that. Like people don't really, it was fun. It's like a little inside joke kind of for people who are in the industry, I think, unless most people know about it nowadays. I don't know. And then the other thing I loved is Margaret's character when she finds out that Lucy is a screenwriter, is like, "Oh, well, do you know Sandra Bullock?" Like asking like, "Oh, do you know so and so actor if you're a screenwriter, like if you're a writer? Oh, have you written for this person? Oh, you should write a movie for this actor specifically." And it's like it's cute because it's like that's not how it works, but I feel like that's also like kind of common. Like at least as an actor, people are always like, "Oh, well, do you know so and so?" Or people are like, "Oh, what have you been in?" Like you get asked certain questions when you're in the industry, and it's just like it doesn't really work that way most of the time. So it's just kind of cute, but it was fun. It's like a little inside joke. So I enjoyed that part. Like I said, I really loved Margaret. I thought her character was just so fun. And I thought the actress was really good at keeping her character very grounded, even though her character was a little bit more stereotypical, a little bit more larger than life than some of the other characters were. But she was very, very grounded in like all of her acting moments. Like I was really watching her closely because I was like, this could go south real fast. And it didn't ever. Like she just did a really, really good job with it. Yeah, I liked her. I thought she was funny. I thought the way that they dressed her was really fun, especially in contrast with Lucy, because she wore a lot more like Christmassy colors. She didn't really wear black, and then Lucy was very much more subdued, a little more understated. And then her hair was all big and cute, and like just her, she was just fun. She was just a fun character to watch. I really enjoyed that. And I also think that something that these films are really good at doing is creating a sense of urgency really quickly. When you're watching something, if there isn't some sort of sense of urgency, it makes it a little bit more boring to watch. And it also can create a problem for the actor. The actor's job is like, the reason why people like to watch stuff like this is because, not, and I don't just mean like this, I just mean like to watch films and TV in general, is like it makes you feel something, and a lot of times one of those feelings is kind of like anticipation or anxiety or excitement or suspense, stuff like that. So the actor's job is to take something, even if it's kind of mundane, you have to like up the ante of it in order to make it more exciting to watch, you know? There has to be some sort of conflict or something pushing the story forward. When something's more urgent, it adds more excitement, and so it's the job. If the writer's doing it already, great. If they're not, the actor's job is a little bit harder because they have to add that urgency themselves and find that themselves. But I feel like these kinds of movies do a really good job with it, again because they have such a short time limit on how they can get their story across, and so the faster that they can get everything moving and the more sense of urgency that they can create in the story, the more engaging and exciting it's going to be for the audience that's watching. So like for this film, one sense of urgency that they created was the hourglass being the time travel thing, which, while like I said, she can kind of control when she is traveling back and forth by changing the hourglass. Like if she doesn't do it correctly, she literally only has until the hourglass runs out, until she's transported back. Can she then just tip it back over and go back? I mean, theoretically, yeah, the way that they introduced the rules for time travel in this movie, yes, she could. But it still creates a sense of urgency because the audience is like, oh, well, she only has the hour until she has to go back. Or like if she did it and if she like tipped it, like there was already a little bit of sand in one end, she tipped over the end with less sand in it, then she has less time to travel. Like stuff like that. And then also she's doing the remake of the script, right? And then she gets sent to this place she gets sent to the Biltmore estate in the first place because the owner of the company is like, hey, I don't think that you really understand what I kind of want from this. Why don't you go and check out where it was filmed and see if that gives you any inspiration, because we're going to film there for the remake anyway. She's like, yeah, whatever. So she goes and she thinks she's going to have like quite a bit of time before she has to get these rewrites finished so they can start filming. But then literally her first day there, she gets a call from the head of the studio, and he's like, hey, actually we need these rewrites like soon, like really soon, like within a week basically. And she's like, whoa, that's like really fast. And so that creates another added sense of urgency, like, wow, so if she's time traveling, then she only has X amount of time to do it. And then, and then also you find out that the hourglass is being taken away soon, like in a couple of days, to like be kept in a museum for a little bit for an exhibit. And so that adds another layer of urgency with the hourglass. But then also her rewrites need to be done by X amount of time, but she's time traveling to try and figure out the best way to end this film that she's rewriting, basically. Like there's like so many added layers of urgency to this. It just helps the story kind of keep moving along. It helps you not get bored, and it helps you kind of get to where you need to go in the short amount of time that they have to but to get through this full movie, like the actual movie. Now I'm gonna get into my like spoiler section. There's not that much here, so you're not really missing that much. Again, this is gonna be a shorter episode, but you're not really missing that much if you don't want to listen to the spoiler section. But you know, if you don't really care, a lot of these movies are pretty predictable anyway, so I don't really think anything I'm saying is that crazy. There was one part that I was like even I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, so spoilers are ahead. If you want to click out, there'll be a timestamp. Okay, so I'm gonna say Winston was suspicious from the beginning. The way that he talked to her, I was just like, dude, we all know. Which it's probably supposed to be that way anyway, so I don't think that that's, crazy. But I was just like, I know what you are. And then for a little bit, I was like, oh, maybe he's not. Like, they did trick me a little bit because I was like, he doesn't really seem like he's involved or knows what's going on with this at all. So I was like, huh. Very odd, very interesting. But then you get to the very, very end, and he's like, oh, I know you have some history with the hourglass. And she was like, what? He knew the whole time. But then a part of me was like, then why didn't you just like wait to like, were you just like, well, listen, hourglass has to go? Like, I don't know. That was a lot. But I knew from the beginning that man was suspicious. But I really loved him. He was really fun to watch, and he acted that part really, really well. Like, I don't know who else they would put there. Like, the voice he used for it, the way that he held and carried himself. I loved him. He was great. But yeah, I knew he was suspicious from the very beginning. The one part that really like actually had me like shocked was when the hourglass broke. Like when she broke it, I was like, I was like, oh no, because they kind of created this sense of like safety because she had already time traveled back and forth, I think 2 times at this point, and so I was like, oh, it'll be fine, like she can go back and forth, it's fine. It had that little crack, but like I was like, oh, it's fine. And then when she actually broke it, I was like, oh my god, like what is she going to do now? I was truly, truly shook. I really loved the guy that they had playing the leading dude. What was his name? I literally wrote it down. Well, I thought I wrote it down. Jack. Oh, Jack. I really loved who they cast for this because I think he really fits the role like perfectly. The way he looked, the way he spoke, the way he carried himself. Again, just like the guy who played Winston, but the guy who played Jack, just like he fits that time period very, very well, which is not true of every single actor. Like, I think there's some people that you stick them. This was a phenomenon a while ago. We're talking about, I don't remember what movie it was, but they were talking about this movie, Daisy and the Seven, something like that. And it was about people who were supposed to be in the 70s, and the actors they picked, they were like, none of these people look like they could be from that time period. And some people just look like that, and some people don't. Like, some people look like they can be in period pieces, and some people don't. Like, I feel like I'm literally looking at myself in the viewfinder. I don't really think I look like someone who would be from a time before. I mean, if with the right makeup and the right look, like maybe. But, there are some people that, like, you look at them and you're like, oh, that's like a kind of timeless classic look just as a human, not good or bad, just like in like that's just what it looks like. And he's one of those people. He looks like he kind of belongs in that time period. And so that was cool, and he played the character very sweet. I don't know what he's like in real life, obviously, but he seemed really sweet, and he was very charming, and he played that character really well, because I think a lot of those lines can come off very like, oh, that's kind of gross, right? But the way that he played it didn't come off that way at all. Yeah, I thought he did a good job. And then the guy that they had playing the like lead of the film, like the fake film, I don't know what else to call it, the lead of the like fake film that she's doing the remake of, that guy, the first time I saw him, I was like, this man looks like a villain. I was like, I don't know about him, he looks like a villain. And I feel like most of these Christmas movies don't have like an actual for real like villain. I feel like usually the villain is kind of like time or corporations or like greed, like these big kind of ideas. And he wasn't really like a villain. He just kind of helped with that aspect of the plot of there being like a big bad. But when I saw him, I was like, that dude looks like a villain. So they styled him really well. I don't know. Again, I don't know what he looks like when he's not in this movie. So I'm sure he's a nice young gentleman. Maybe not young. I think he's a nice gentleman. But the way that they styled him, I was like, that guy's a villain, and I can tell. Something else that I really loved was the parallels that they used throughout the film, not just with like the time traveling aspect, but there were like several moments, like, but the specific one that I wrote down, I guess it is just with the time traveling aspect. I don't know what I'm saying. But it's not just a specific moment. It happened several times throughout the film. But the one that stuck out to me was when Margaret is in the present tense and Jack is in the past. and they're both running trying to save Lucy and make sure that she can make it to like her time period basically, but Jack's doing it in the past because she's running from the security guard there, and then Margaret's trying to make sure that that hourglass doesn't get taken away before her friend can come back. That was really fun. Like they're running into the library, the door shuts. That was really fun to cut in between. And then they did it again later, and I didn't like it as much. This is like the one thing that I like didn't really like with the film, because I knew what I was getting into, so I didn't think that there was going to be much that I didn't really like about this. But the one thing that I didn't like is they did later, after Lucy had left the past and had to unfortunately leave Jack behind, they did a thing where, because like her room, which was cute, her room in the present what used to be his room when he was staying there filming, and that was really cute. But like it shows the two of them, we have a split screen, and it shows the two of them like both walking into their room, and then they both lay down, they like, she drops her shoes, he drops his script, they both lay down on the bed, and like you see them kind of next to each other. It looks like they're laying next to each other in bed. And first I was like, I wonder if I don't like it because like previously when they had done it, they were just cutting in between each, so you would just kind of see it repeat, or it would just kind of like leave off where the other one had left off when it was Jack and Margaret. So I don't know if it was a distinction between characters and the relationship between characters, and that's why they did it like this, or if they did the split screen specifically so they could get the shot of the two of them both laying in their respective beds, but it looked like they were laying next to each other. I don't know why they chose to do it the way that they did. So first I thought, oh, the split screen is what's really bothering me, but then as I was looking at it, I was like, no, it is a really nice shot to see the two of them in bed, in their own beds, but like looking like they're next to each other. That's a really nice like image to kind of have and leave the viewer with. I think the one thing I didn't like about it is that they had this really thick, not really thick, but they had a thicker black bar in between the two, and I feel like normally when I see a split screen like that, and I could think of a recent one, I'm watching right now, me and my mom are together watching the K-drama, I think it's called My Demon, and they have a very similar shot. Like, K-dramas do this a lot, I feel, where when the two characters are laying in their own beds, but they cut it so that way they look like they're next to each other in the bed, but you can tell that it's different bed. You know what I mean? They do that, but the bar in between the two isn't that thick. So I really think like the split screen isn't what bothered me. I think the thing that bothered me is how thick that black bar was in between the two. It just made it feel very disconnected, which maybe is the point because they're disconnected by a big chunk of time. But I don't know. It just felt like you're trying to show me the similarities, but also like they're already showing me the differences in terms of like one was carrying the shoes and then the guy was carrying the script, and the patterns in the rooms were different, and the lighting, the coloring of it was different, and then like the bed sheets that they're laying on, like I already see all these differences. I don't need to be shown how different it is by you giving me this thicker black bar in the middle. Like I know it's two different things, like I already know that, and they're also trying to show me the similarities of like how they're acting. So I think if the bar had just been a little bit not as thick, if it had been a little thinner, I think I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. But that was the one thing that I was like, oh, like kind of, it like jerked me out of it a little bit. I was like, oh, I don't really like that. But honestly, that was kind of the only gripe I had with the whole thing. I really enjoyed it. It was fun. It was enjoyable. Like I had a good time watching it. When I first started watching it, I was actually just wrapping some presents that I had while I was watching it, and then I I sat down after I finished wrapping the presents. I was like maybe 20 or 30 minutes into the movie, and I sat down and I was like, I kind of don't fully know what's going on right now. So I had to rewind it and like actually watch, and I didn't mind it, like I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was a very fun movie. If you want like a fun little Christmas thing to watch on Christmas, or you only kind of got 2 days once this comes out, a day and a half really once this comes out, to watch some more Christmas stuff. But or if you want to, like, I think some people like to spend their day after Christmas just kind of relaxing and hanging out and like eating leftovers from the day before, eating sweet treats from the day before, and enjoying their new gifts, or just enjoying time with their family. So if you like to do that and you want something to watch and you're still okay with watching a little Christmas thing, put this on. It was, if you can find it. Again, I don't know where you would find it. You gotta watch it while it's playing, or I recorded it and then watched it later. But it was good. It was really good. I really enjoyed it, and I would definitely recommend this to anyone else who wants to watch it. If you like cheesy rom-com-y Christmas stuff, then yes, this one is for you. And also, it's probably one of the least cheesy ones I've seen. So if you're not super into the cheesy stuff, maybe give it a try because you might still like it. The ending was pretty cliche, pretty cheesy, but it was very cute, and it wasn't done in a way that made me like, okay. Like I was very satisfied with the ending, which I really appreciated and I really liked. And now it's time for my What Did I Learn, or my Too Long Didn't Read, which is basically kind of what you learn from most, if not all, of these Christmas movies. For this one in particular, this is what I will say, which is sometimes you just need a little Christmas magic and some love. And sometimes, really, all you need is some love. And even if that means losing everything else, for some people, when they find that one thing, or when they care and love someone that much, like, they're willing to go that far. Do you always have to go that far? No. Like I've said several times before in my previous podcasts, I think being selfish sometimes is a good thing. It really is. But, a little love is all you need sometimes. And I think that's fun and beautiful and cute. And some Christmas magic doesn't hurt either. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about it. If you're interested, go check it out. It was good. And I'm really glad that my friend recommended it to me because I really enjoyed it. So thank you if you are tuned in to this. Thank you for recommending it for me. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, evening, morning, night, whatever. And I will see you next time. Love, Mikaela. Bye. Happy holidays.